So there's been a bit of a fracas at my workplace. Basically a split in the direction of the culture. One side, the side I'm on, is in favor of moving in a direction that involves the reutilization and proactive, dynamic engagement and execution of our synergistic co-energy paradigms, while the other faction stubbornly won't move from simply optimizing and resensing our bandwidth-centric restructured allometrics. We've reached an impasse. Any advice?
Without knowing how your executive-level decision-makers are wired, I am not going to weigh in on what to do with factions. I am currently trying to finish my MBA after a few too many years away from college. However, from working and reading a lot of case studies, there are a few areas where all business could excel, and you brought up a very common problem, and that is us versus them. This is major problem in a lot of companies, and the sooner that is addressed, the easier it will be to make a decision on which way to go. On a side note, I have to agree with you based on the way you presented your side of this issue. Also, someone brought up the idea of a consultant. My only concern with consultants is unless you get someone that is very familiar with your style and type of business, you can get a great consultant that will not work for your company. Not all business models and ideas work for each form of business. If you bring in someone that is used to working with big companies and has a global view, and you are a small to medium business, but he was the best guy, yes, he will bring in value. However, he will set goals that might be fiscally impossible for you. Other than that I love working with consultants.
I was looking at this issue from a purely scientific protocol standpoint. MBOM definitely sheds some light from a business perspective, which I think helps give a little clarity to the synergistic nature of your coworkers. I certainly don't envy your situation, D-Son. MBOM, I know you mentioned the bottom line being the most important thing in issues like this, but how would you address the conflict between the seemingly unethical scientific procedures used to achieve conical wave patterns most profitable, and the more ethical procedures which will only achieve semi-spherical wave patterns less profitable?
Ethics play a very huge role in all decision-making. For me, this is a very tough place to be, because if this is a publicly held company, there is responsibility to the shareholders. So if you are telling me it is unethical, is it illegal? Many things in business can be colored unethical. See gray market sales, bait and switch sales, warranty sales, etc. However, integrity is something that I hold paramount. So for me, unless the profit decrease would be 30 to 50%, and there is no R&D overhead, I would lean toward the semi-spherical myself. This is my gut response. Let me mull over this. Will give a better response later.
There are corners that must be cut to achieve the conical wave patterns. That is part of the reason that it's more profitable, but also plays into the fact that it may be unethical but not illegal. The problem that comes into play is that while the procedures necessary to create semi-spherical wave patterns are certainly by the book with no ethical dilemmas, scientifically, there is a minuscule but not zero risk of diminishment of acoustical pattern recognition in employees with greater than 5 years of exposure. Would that change anything you might recommend?
Here is a question. If 1,000 people were exposed for 5 years, what would be the percent of people that could be affected? I know that this is a small sample size, however I am just attempting to examine a baseline to make a decision off of.
Right, and there is a reason I said seemingly unethical. Some people seem to think the reactors used to form conical wave patterns emit higher levels of radioactive isotopes, though there haven't been any conclusive results in preliminary testing. I personally feel there should be conclusive results before companies start moving forward with those reactors. Also, that's an interesting point made from a business POV. What makes you lean towards the semi-spherical side, and do you see any drawbacks? I mean, I definitely think the SS aspect can help in a logical sense, but is it the best possible move?
See, now with that said, you are pulling my money-making bone. That's what she said. If that is the rate of turnover, that would mean that at the most a person would be affected for as little as 12 months after the 5-year period. To me, that would lend to the fact that we could be more profitable as a business. However, that would lead to my next question. If this a no risk factor going in, is there a waiver or tort waiver of some form that allows for the company to exempt from lawsuits? I mean, a crab boat fisherman knows he could fall off into the ocean and die, and his family cannot sue.
Baum, since you have experience on the business side, what is your opinion on the issue? Should our work group revert back to refocusing our co-synergies on polycommunicative protocol interactions, or take a risk on multi-derivative fiscal reshaping anchored by prioritized paradigm deployment shifts?
Before I answer that question, can I ask one thing? What is the split percentage, 50-50 or less?
Of course, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Assuming you understand everything else, the split is just an inverse recursive corollary function of the fiscal plot on the polar axis. Mapping it out with standard projections, the co-synergy protocols I'm arguing for would be at least 56.74% in our favor, while the multi-derivative fiscal reshaping would be less than that, though a safer option by standard risk metrics.
One thing, I think our friend is in a moral conundrum. It really seems that his ideas are, and I believe that man extraneous factor are way on many of his co-workers. However, in the business sense, to me the bottom needs to be paid very close attention. Moral fiber also is a factor in any business choice that we make. Nonetheless, I can see how this can make his job tough to perform each day because he has a very strong constitution. Also, the fact that D's side is not overwhelming majority. He also is going to have to fight vigorously to get his point across, or just simply succumb his viewpoint in the name of good business. Good business and integrity should, when applicable, work hand in hand. In field of science, however, it seems I am not versed enough, and all the info I find takes me to QSC audio. Laugh out loud. Insanity has caused many business to fail from inside. One of the most insane things I see in business is tenure or seniority protection. This is a business practice I cannot deal with. I have seen companies give away very talented people to protect an old dog who is just collecting checks. But let me get off the bunny trail. Now, back to the box talk. It does not matter if you are inside the box or outside the box. What matters is it the right box. And to me, from a D's problem is that this enigma that he is dealing with is making him ponder if the box he is in is the correct box.